All right, so sorry, almost went with no audio again this time. So what, we went in 11 minutes into the stream without audio, so sorry about that again. All right, so I'm Jeremy. This is Jeremy Makes. Continuing on the Mk2S to Mk3, now Mk3S upgrade. Everything I said beforehand does not matter, not worth repeating. Anyway, so you can see that we're getting the ET Electronics case and electronics board all set up and ready to install. One thing important I want to mention is that when you're doing the screws into these threaded holes in the plate here, it shouldn't be real hard to screw the screw in. If you're having a difficult time with it, back it out. Don't force it in. You don't want to strip these screws because this plate is going to be difficult to replace if you do happen to strip it. But it says place the screw in the hinge, so we're doing the small lower hinge now. And the hinge should be facing us, so the post of the hinge should be facing upwards. Now I'm going to pull the extruder body out of the way here because we're going to need some space here in a sec. And then I also placed the square nut in the door here. So now the next step, we've got the ET door assembly. So I'm going to place the ET door on the lower hinge. So go ahead and put that on there. It'll kind of hold itself into place for right now. We want the larger of the two hinges. And we're going to need another M10 screw. So this is going to go in. And this one's a little bit more difficult to orient. But you'll see the recessed for the M3 head. It's going on the outside, and it'll be flat on the hole on the inside here on the printed part, and then the post will go down. So we're going to get that in there. Actually, let's go ahead and put the post in first, and then we can get this screw lined up with the hole in the frame. Get my driver bit in there. Go. See, that one was way easier than the bottom one. And we'll get that tightened up. If I'm not mistaken too, you can go ahead and just tighten these all the way up. Having these loose isn't going to be a big deal at all. And you just want to make sure that the door opens and closes. So you can see there it swings freely. Alright, next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to wrap the X cable. So we're going to need our last not our last, but our other small textile wrap, and we're going to need a single zip tie. And then what it talks about here is for the following steps, please prepare that. Wrap the sleeve around the X motor. The sleeve is shorter than the motor cable. Secure the sleeve using zip tie. You'll have to tighten the zip tie firmly, and it's only a temporary fix until the NC case is assembled, but you can leave the zip tie in place afterwards. So actually, I printed out a part that I found on Thingiverse, and it's this little stress reliever for this wire. So I think I'm actually going to use this now because it's a great little part. So it's definitely something that you know, is worth checking out on Thingiverse. I think it's just called the X-axis Prusa i3 Mk3 X-axis wire stress relief or something like that. I can't remember. So I'm just going to put that on there since I put the zip tie on now anyway. I guess not going to waste the zip tie. You know, I printed it in the Prusa PET orange. So the same thing that the rest of the orange parts are printed out of. So it all matches. And it doesn't affect anything. It doesn't do performance improvements. It's going to be stress relief on the motor cable. Can't go wrong with a little bit of stress relief on motor cables, and stress relief in general, obviously. So let's see. I feel like these textile wraps are a little harder to get the wires to run into. I mean, I don't use them all the time, so I'm not a pro at it or anything. So I'm sure some of you out there that may be watching this have done this with no issue multiple times. probably even daily. But it's definitely not the easiest thing for me. But it's definitely not the most difficult thing on this build either. Come on. It says in the notes of the step 7 here that the sleeve's going to be shorter than the cable. So not to worry, it's supposed to be. It's not much shorter, but it is definitely shorter. There we go. Now we get it all the way in there. There we go. And then gotta slide it up into this little holder here. And then use our zip tie to tie it all shut. Now I'm going to put the head of the zip tie on the outside so it just doesn't get in the way of anything. Alright, and then we're just going to cut the excess of the zip tie off. I'm going to leave a little bit just in case I want to try and tighten it up, but I didn't leave enough. Oh well, it should be good. Yeah, that's good. Let's get a sleeve and then zip tie just to hold it into place. So now we're going to prepare the ENC board base. So this is our ENC board base right here. So let's grab our hardware kit. We're going to need M3 times 10 screws, 6 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we're going to need square nuts times 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to need 4 of the regular M3 nuts. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then that's all we're going to need for this step. So put the rest of these back in this bag here. Which isn't always the easiest thing. All right. And then we're also going to want our ENC motherboard, which I'm going to leave inside of the anesthetic bag for right now. But we have that now. And then the last thing is that the ENC base printed part here. It's been designed for the opening if you're going to use a Raspberry Pi Zero W. And you're going to hook it up to the GPO pins of this, which it does not have the GPO pins, I don't believe. Let me check real quick. Oh no, the Raspberry Pi Zero W doesn't have the GPO pins installed already. I believe this. Actually, I don't know. I've not even looked into how you hook up the Raspberry Pi Zero W to the ENC board. Anyway, so let's just move on because we're not going to do that anyway. I run it off a separate Pi Zero, or Pi Zero, just a Pi B plus. Anyway, so we're going to prepare the base now. So we're going to put 4 of the M3 regular nuts into the traps on this case back, which will actually end up being the front. Actually, I need to clean that up a little bit there. So let me get my bridging on this print. Didn't do very well. Got a lot of stringing inside these captive holes for the M3 nuts. And in this hole too. Not printing either one of these. Nope, I'm good. So since this is the upgrade, obviously, I didn't receive these parts from Prusa. These were printed out on the I think I printed out these parts on the Mk2S before I disassembled it. I know I printed some of them on the new Mk3, but I didn't. I went ahead and got started on it before I finished building the Mk3. Because I'd planned on doing this upgrade, so I went and printed out a bunch of the parts. Alright, let's see if we can get that in there. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab a longer one here and just get it seated in. Using that method we've used quite a few times already. You know, no, it doesn't need to be that long. Just need longer than M10. Doing this so that they don't fall out as I'm trying to put the INSI board in. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time cleaning up the inside of those holes. They're not going to matter once the board's installed. You know what? I could just use M10. That should work fine. M3 times 10, sorry. Not M10, M3 times 10. Yeah, it worked out great. Why I'm grabbing that tool. It's a weird tool to grab. Alright, two more. So if you got this, if you're watching this and you're working on a brand new kit from Prusa Research, then you're probably not going to have this same problem with the bridging inside of the holes. Either if they've experienced it, then they cleaned it up before it got put into your kit, or maybe if you printed yours out from an upgrade after your upgrade, maybe you didn't have the bridging problems. I've been having bridging problems for some reason. Even some of my other prints that I've been printing recently, bridging's been a little bit on the weird side. And I haven't really taken the time to diagnose what the problem is. It's probably print speed. Could be the fan, but I'm not having problems with anything else. So layer shifting here and there, but that's to be expected. Nothing huge. It doesn't happen often. So when it does happen, I'm not usually too mad about it. All right. So now that we got all four of those in there, we're now going to insert our INSI board. So orient it just like it is in the picture there, with the top. That's going to end up being the top. Is going to end up being the back. And then grab our INSI board, and the old school USB port goes towards the top. There's this big square cutout in the printed part. And then you'll see the four holes that the INSI board gets attached to. And then we can go ahead and start attaching these screws. You want to be very careful. You can damage the board. Don't want to scratch the screws along any of the You need a printed circuit board. This screw back here is a little tough to get the screw into because it's kind of tucked underneath a lip. And they do have it have a channel printed in there so that you can get to the screw with one of your Allen keys, but it's excuse me, Allen wrenches, but it's still difficult to get the screw in there and started. I usually end up trying to just get it part way in there and then get the screw the Allen driver to angle it the rest of the way. You know what? Let me try using a pair of needle nose pliers. I'm probably just making this way more difficult than it needs to be for myself. Oh, needle noses are way too big. That didn't work. My head's going to come into view there for a sec, sorry. This is where having a magnetic bit would be great. That's being a lot bigger of a pain in the butt than I remember from building the other printer. Come on. You know what? I'm just going to do the other ones. See if we can get that one that was giving me problems in. Just get the tip of it in the hole. It sounded kind of dirty. Come on. Stay in there. There we go. Needle nose pliers for the win. And you don't need to get this tightened too tight. Just a little bit, just to make sure that it's not going to rattle around. No harmonic vibrations or anything like that. All right, so now that we got that done, yep, got that done. Step 10. We want to take the 4 and 3 square nuts. Take the 4, and then they're going to go into these holes for the where the holders for the rest of the cable sleeving is going to be. So this is probably one of those positions where I'm going to want to try and do what we've done before. Put this on the tip of just barely on the tip of a longer nut. Get it at least started in there, and then once it's started, we should be able to finesse its way the rest of the way in. You want to be very careful. You've got the board installed, so things like I'm doing right here, I could easily slip and kill the board. So I'm trying to second guess myself when I'm, or not second guess myself, but you know, be very cautious with what I'm doing there, doing here. Let's see. This might be a step that they might want to rethink where it is in the steps. This could be done, I think, could be done before putting the board in to make sure that the board's not, you know, going to get damaged during this step. Pretty sure they're considering that the nuts will go in without an issue, but especially when you have people who are printing out the part for the upgrade, it may have some issues like I'm having, and have the step tell us to put these screws in first, and just to be cautious as you're moving this around, because I haven't reoriented the part since I've installed it, or since that step I would have put these in at. There we go. Got it. That one was fun. Alright, so there's another one on the outside of this one here, so I'm just going to go ahead and take my file and file it down a little bit. Just clean it up a tiny bit. There we go. Let's see if that'll go in without. No, I'm just going to skip even trying that and go ahead and just use this technique again. Nope, I need to clean that up some more. All right. Let's see if that worked. Let's see if that worked. Not really. There we go. Just took a little bit of finesse. There we go. And then there's going to be two more on the top piece here. And I think I struggled with this. If you've watched the live stream from the Mk3 build I did a month and a half ago before this build. That was a kit that I had for sitting there in a box for over a year. I struggled with these two for a while, so I'm going to go ahead and just try to go ahead and clean them up now before I start struggling with them again. You would think since I struggled with them last time that I would have prepared better and got these cleaned up better before stream today, but nope. I want you guys to see the struggle. You know what? Let me get another file bit. Not that one. That one, yeah. Or no. Yeah, there we go. That one's good. All right, there we go. Let's see if this will work. Come on. May just be able to use those pliers here. Let's find out. Sorry, keep putting this stuff off camera. Like all the cameras can't see it. Okay. Maybe? Nope. Let's try this one. That one looks like it's going in. There we go. That one's on its way into its home. There we go. And then the last one. Let's see. I think this is pretty sure this is the one I struggled with on the last build too for quite some time. I'm sure it was painful to watch if you watched it at all. Great thing about watching a recording is that you can just fast forward until it's done. This one needs a little bit more cleaning up. Skip over this bolt for now, or this nuts for now, because it's still giving me lots of issues. I don't want to sit here and take forever on just one single nut. Let me just try clean this hole up just a little bit more. You know what? Let me see. Using my square file here. It's almost the same size as the square nut I recently figured out. Wish I would have kind of known that before. So getting it in and out might help free up anything that's in the way. Since this is PETG, you do have some rigidity to it. You don't want to be too rough with it. But PETG's not as fragile as PLA. everything that I'm doing right now with this part would have probably broken a PLA part by now. And I'm not saying you aren't going to break this part doing something like that. You can. It's still plastic when it comes down to it. There we go. See, I didn't give up. I'm glad I didn't give up. Never give up, never surrender. Don't let the plastic printed part beat you. All right, so now that we've got those in there, we're gonna mount the ENC base part 1 onto the plate. So we're gonna find the opposing holes to the holes we've already used. Marked there at the blue arrows and the green circles. It says to go ahead and put 2 of the M3 times 10 screws in, but we're going to want to leave them just slightly, so basically just a couple turns in. And I'm actually going to rotate our X carriage out of the way. It's a little low there. It's funny, you can't see anything about it, anything of the X carriage in the pictures they show there. It's there somewhere. So just basically get it started. You are probably going to have to grab your Allen driver, Allen key, Allen wrench, something. Starting these by hand isn't going to be easy. Need some sort of tool. There we go. Just a couple of turns in and make sure they're not all the way through the other side. And now we're going to mount the ENC base. So before mounting the base on the frame, take the cable from the X-axis motor, see the yellow label, and plug it into the ENC board. Push the textile sleeve in the slot and leave some slack on the cable along the board. Don't stretch the cable. And then those are the slots we're going to be putting through there. So we want the X-axis board to be plugged in. So it's basically the top. So here on the ENC board, we have our USB connector. This is where the extruder cabling will come in at. So this one will be in the front side, this one will be in the back side. So these are all of our motor connectors. And according to their diagram on screen currently, marked in the green box, the very top one is our X-axis motor. So we confirm that by looking at this yellow zip tie on the tip of this cable here. It says X-axis. Of course, it's attached to the X-axis. And it's keyed so that it only goes in one way. You'll see that the connector on the board and the connector here on the end of the cable that it terminates in only go in one way. And there's a little snap connector that goes right in. Make sure you just pull slightly, make sure it's nice and snug in there. And then what they're showing on our screen now is, I'm sorry, the screen now is these 2 weird shaped slots on this side. This is where our screws are going to go. And then they have a channel for us to use our bit through the front here, and then we have a spot here along the bottom clearance to tighten down the bottom one. So that's what it has us doing next in step 13. We want to make sure that we have the X cable through this little printed hole right here. Leave some slack on the cable along the board. Don't stretch the cable, so you want to leave a little bit of slack there. You don't need a lot. You need enough to push it out of the way to attach all the rest of your motor cables. And now that's pushed in there. And now we're going to slide the ENC board, as they show in step 13, over the bottom and the top. And then it has us tightening it down with doing the top first and then the bottom. So the top is the tough one. So that's the one we're going to start with. So let's just go ahead and get that all started here. And this kind of snaps into place. Here we go. And I'm going to go ahead and use the Allen key that they have, the longer one with the ball end. It's going to be the easiest unless you have a ball end driver, a thin ball end driver as well. This one's just perfectly the right size. It's actually why I think they have this corner cutout printed on here, is so that you can more easily tighten this screw. It's kind of funny that the design that Prusa's done has thought about that. Because if that corner was there, when I twisted this up, I would have hit that corner by now. And it just barely has enough clearance to twist this Allen wrench all the way around. So good on you guys for designing this in such a thoughtful way, because that would be frustrating hitting that corner every single time I turned this. Alright, so that one's pretty tight down. Shouldn't be through the other side. Should be almost flush, like if you were to stick your finger in the hole. You should feel the bolt with your skin pushing through the hole a little bit, but it shouldn't be popping through the other side. And now that I got the top done, I'm going to go ahead and get the bottom done. What I'm just doing is I'm making sure that it's flush along this side here, or as best I can flush. Otherwise the door doesn't meet up correctly. Now once I feel like I got them tightened down enough, I'm going to go ahead and just visually double check and make sure that the screws are all seated in there correctly. And again, you're screwing a printed plastic part to a metal frame with metal fasteners. You don't want it to be too tight. You want this top thing to get all the way flush. Let me loosen this up just a little bit here, so that I can push this back on there a little bit more. There we go. That's good. There we go. And now our door should close on there pretty gently. Doesn't quite line up 100%, but it's close enough. That's why they have these little cones here to kind of get everything aligned once you've got everything done. Alright, and now we've done both of those. Cable management. In the following steps, we'll manage all of the cables on the printer. We've tested several ways, and this seems to be the most efficient. In the upcoming stages, please tighten all zip ties carefully, as you might pinch break the cables depending on the power supply unit type. Silver, turn the printer on the PSU side and start from the bottom all the way up to the top. Black, power supply unit. In case of a new back power supply unit, cables are going below the extrusion, not above it. This is only difference. In all the steps, the management is the same way for the silver PSU. This is the only difference. In all of the steps, the management is the same as for the silver. So basically, we're going to, okay, I see what they're saying. So on the new power supply unit, it comes out of the bottom of the power supply, and on the old one, which is one I have, it comes over top of the extrusion on the side of the power supply. So everything else is the same. All right, so let's go ahead and clear up some desk space here. I'm gonna put this out of the way, put this out of the way. Move some of these printed parts out of the way just in case they get in the way. Okay. Thought I could pick those all up in one shot. All right, so now we're gonna place the whole machine on its side here, making sure we don't trap any cables underneath it. Here we go. Did that get turned somehow? That's weird. All right, so now that we are on our bottom here, I'm gonna actually try and get this other camera over here. And let's see. Oh, where is it? There we go. Get this zoomed, or not zoomed, focused. It's my manual focus camera here. You'll see I've got a computer that's updating Windows over there that's taking forever. Anyway, so in the new style power supply unit, according to the picture on stop 14 there, the power wires come out on this bottom here. Whereas the old style one, which is the one I have, it comes out on the side and goes over the extrusion here. So we're going to of course follow all of the cable management the way it is, and I'm going to go ahead and pull these cables through between the extrusion and the smooth rod there just to get them into their spot. And it wants us to start with the Z-axis motor on this side. So start with the Z-axis motor on the right side. So the right side is going to be our bottom side here now, which you can see there. I'm trying to get the bright light out of your frame there. Let me actually move that light. Sorry, step out of frame here for a sec. All right, that should be a little bit better. No, let's go back to the instructions. Thought I had one with the zoom cam and the face cam, but anyway, not a big deal. So we're going to grab some zip ties. And then what we have here is there's a cutout in the frame here, and on either side of that cutout there is 2 holes. We're going to slide the zip tie through the bottom hole, make sure that it goes around the motor cable here. If I'm not mistaken, let me make sure. Yep, and then it comes back on top of that. And then zoom in on that. Yeah, so basically it goes back. Whoops, gotta be careful of that. Let me grab, that can be too big. I'm gonna grab one of the Prusa boxes to keep it, now that everything's kind of heavier on that side. Move the heat bed back some. There we go. So I just kind of move the heat bed back to the middle there and just put one of the boxes they provide there to kind of keep it stabilized. So we want it to go around the motor cable on this side, and then we want the motor cable to go back through the zip tie on the other side so that it can go over that portion and then back up there. So let me go ahead and get the zip tie started so the wire doesn't want to travel out. Oh, come on. There we go. And these don't have to be super tight because you don't want to cut the cable against the frame or anything. I'm really worried about that, but not really worried, but I worry about that a little bit. This cable running right up against that steel there, but that's tight enough there. I'm gonna grab my side cutters, making sure not to get any wires in there. And there we go. And now we got that. We want to go ahead and join this motor cable underneath this extrusion, and then we're going to join all of our power supply cables. There should be 2 power supply cables, and then your emergency shutdown cable here. You saw my last stream where I was building the Mk3 kit. I didn't even realize this was there. This is a new feature from the Mk2. I completely forgot it. I had to go back and rewire it all, redo all the wire management. So, and then up here, part way up the frame there, you'll see the 2 holes right there, just like in the picture. So the zip tie goes through the bottom hole and then comes back around through the other side and back out that way, and then you run your wires along that, and then you'll have a couple spots along the frame where you do that. So if you see me running the zip ties through something, that's what I'm running them through. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Going through the bottom here, come through the top. Nothing goes on the front side of the plate, but all of these wires need to go into this zip tie. And then once I get the zip tie started, I can kind of get the cables a little tighter, and then tighten the zip tie down all the rest of the way. There we go. All right. Again, the zip tie doesn't need to be super tight, but tight enough to keep everything in place. All right, and then yeah, it says be careful not to over tighten the ties so they can cut the wires, cut the remaining off. And then we're going to continue up. So our next zip tie goes into this one right here, I believe. Let's see. Yep, that's above the or below the second notch here, and that is actually going to be where we join in the Y-axis motor cable. Is below that one, so we're going to go ahead and start the zip tie here. Going to join in our Y-axis motor along with our X-axis motor and our power supply cabling. Roll this all up and over this. And then I can go ahead and get this zip tie started. All right. And you don't want to tighten this up too much. You want to leave a little bit of slack here. All right, let's see. Here we go. All right, and now from here, we're going on to step 18. Step 18 is where we take the ribbon cables from the LCD in the front and then we run it. I just kind of tied them up with this Velcro wire tie for the keep them out of the way for the time being. But as you can see from the photo there, it says to slide them into the extrusion. I have seen some prints people have designed on Thingiverse that provide you with, you know, if you put T-nuts into the extrusion here and some cable management prints you can parts you can print. Man, that's good English, Jeremy. So I'm just going to get these kind of pushed into the hole gently. You kind of see here they have them all the way up in there. You don't want these wires, these ribbon cables getting in the way of your Y-axis belt path here at all. So you want to make sure they are nice and tucked away. And then this little cutout on the plate here is where they go into this wire cabling here. So they have it going underneath all of the wires. So I'm going to pull all these wires back. Go ahead and get these cables flat up against the framing here. And then they have us zip tying the rest of the cable before this, before we join the LCD ribbon cables in. So I'm going to pull those out of the way. Going to go ahead and slide this zip tie into its place. Might have been a little easier to do this before we ran the ribbon cable, but hey, that's all right. And then now we're going to take our bundle of wires here and gently place them over the ribbon cable and into our zip tie. Get the zip tie started here. Yeah, so it says there on the yellow step, you want to exclude the LCD ribbon cables. Just double check before I got this too tight. I'm just going to make sure I've got everything semi-tight here. Go. Again, don't want to over tighten them. You can cut the cables with the zip ties. Oh, missed. And now on to step 20. We want to go ahead and slide our zip tie into these last two holes on the notch that's right by the what will become the Z-axis left motor. So through the bottom hole, around the Z-axis motor cable, and then back through the top hole so that it holds that motor cable up against the frame there. And now we run that through as well. And then we're going to run our ribbon cable through there first. So going to have to kind of weave this flat ribbon cable up and over. Believe you want to make sure that if you look at the picture here, the red line is towards the inside of the frame. That's going to make it easier to plug it into the ENC board once we get there. So I want to make sure and keep that that pattern going there. So they just kind of tighten up so you can kind of see there. Let's see if I can get it to go there. Let's just make this, sorry, moving the camera a ton. Make that stand a little taller there. There we go. So now you can see the ribbon cable with the red lines pointing towards the frame there. All remaining flat. All the rest of my wiring is in front of it. And then we're going to run the rest of our wiring through this zip tie as well. So make sure that X-axis cable stays in there, or Z-axis cable stays in there. Let's go ahead and grab, how do I have it? We're getting a little tight in there. There we go. So let me grab my Y and the other Z-axis motor, put that through first. Then the emergency shutdown power supply cable. And now finally the last two of the power cable. Once I got all that through, I can go ahead and get the zip tie started. I get it almost tight, I can go ahead and get the rest of these cables in their spots. And then cut the excess off. All right. And now we got that all nice and tight in there. This time be very careful. Tighten the zip tie slightly or damage the LCD cable. The zip tie should be snug to hold the wires in place. Over tightening can cut the wires. That's it. The cables are organized. Let's connect them to the ENC board. Now you can turn the printer back on its feet. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the frame and stabilize it. Take my extra little board out of the box out of the way here. Place it off to the side. Let's go ahead and turn this printer back around, and I'm going to try to get the camera into the ENC housing here. So sorry about the fast movements. Guess I could have taken the could have changed the camera to a different camera while I moved it around, but too late now. All right, so as you guys can see, if I move some of these cables out of the way, there's our ENC board. We are all ready to start connecting cables here. We are going to need two pieces here. So we're going to need, first of all, we're going to need 4 M3 times 10 screws. I'm going to go ahead and leave the rest of this hardware out because I'm going to need it all here soon. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 M3 times 10. And then we're going to need our 2 housing covers. What do they call them? Cable clips. The extruder cable clip and the heat bed cable clip. So the heat bed cable clip is, we'll put it in the small camera, in the zoom camera here. So the heat bed cable clip is this one where it's got the angle, matches the angle that you see right here. It's exactly where it goes. Right in there. And then we need our extruder cable clip, which is this one with the straight path here, and that matches up with the access point up here. And you can see it just slides in. Whoops, I just dropped it. Just slides in right at the top, right up there. Just like that. And got those ready to go. So the first thing we want to do is get the rest of these cables out of the way for just a minute. There we go. So it wants us to do the heat bed cable bundle first. So I'm going to bring those into frame here. So you'll see I've got my heat bed cable bundle with the thermistor connector and my power leads. And then it shows that the sleeve, make sure the sleeve is inside the holder. See the picture? So let's go ahead and zoom in here. So you can see that the sleeve goes almost all the way to the end of the cable clip, as they call it. And then I'm going to need to take this piece here and slide it over just like that. Take one of my M3 times 10 screws. Oh, I'm going to stretch and grab my tool here. We're going to use 2, but I'm going to just start with 1 for right now. And it goes into its home right here. I was trying to put it into the top one if you're paying attention, and then decided to put it in the bottom one all of a sudden. It was just easier to reach. So once I get that one in, I can then let go of it, grab my other one, and then use the tool to start it in its home. There we go. All right. BEA beautiful. So let's close that picture down. Got that. Yeah, there you go. That's the clip I just put on there. The power supply and heat bed power wires cabling, part 1. So important, this is crucial to connect the power supply unit and the heat bed cables in the correct order to the ENC board. Positive wire must be connected to the positive slot. There are 2 versions of the cables with different coloring systems. Boy, they really know how to make you relax, don't they? So anyway, version A, both wires in each pair are black. Positive wire is marked with a red line. Version B, on each pair there is a red and a black wire. Positive wire is fully red. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I have the version A where each one of them is black and one has a red line. Or I'm not even really able to tell because that cable looks red but has a black line on it, which may just be left over from these 2 being made together. But this is definitely our positive, and this is definitely our negative. And then we have the same thing on our power supply cables that you can see there. One's red, one's black. Red one's going to be your positive, black one's going to be your negative. So now we need to make sure that we put these in the red order. So the first cable from the power supply unit is going to go into green, which is our full inside cable here. So I'm going to kind of fold these out of the way for a sec. And I'm going to grab a Phillips driver. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to switch over to, there it is. I'm just going to switch the bit out on my smaller driver that I've been using this whole time. Just make sure it works before I get into it too much. Yep, and I'm going to make sure these are all loose. So that's a little too hard to use. Let's go to the regular screwdriver. And I'm going to move the heat bed back forward just to give myself a little bit of extra room here. There we go. That's great. All right, first terminal's loose. Second terminal's loose. And then it has a reminder on there at the bottom with an important note that both sets of the cables from the power supply unit are the same, and it does not matter which order they go in. So just whichever order, whatever pair you put in. It doesn't matter positive, negative, but it doesn't matter which set goes into which bank here. So I'm just going to grab the first set that I've grabbed a hold of. So my first terminal is going to be my positive, so I want to make sure I grab one of these red ones and throw it in there, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab the black and put it in as well. And while I've got that, I'm holding it with my finger, I'm just going to tighten down these two terminals, making sure I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure up to make sure that the terminal connect is all the way into the connector as I tighten it down, and then make sure both are tightened down fairly decently well. Guess I didn't need to loosen them up that much. There we go. And then we're going to grab our second set of cables from the power supply, making sure that we've got our red first going into the third terminal from the front, and then the black goes into the fourth terminal from what will be the front of the printer. Go. I'll make sure that's below there. There we go. All right. Get these tightened down. Just trying to give a little bit of space between those two terminals there. They're not touching each other too much. There we go. And then the last one's going to be from our heat bed, which is this one that is kind of coming in from the back side. I'm going to pull this motor cable wire out of the way. There we go. So this one's a little bit more difficult one because they kind of have to bend up and go directly into their home. So probably might tighten each one of these down one at a time. So let's start with the positive first. So that's the one with the red wire. Oh no, that's staying in there pretty good. Let's try, you know what? I think I need to do the negative first because I'm not going to have much space to get the negative in. Let's try putting the negative one in first. Yep, negative goes in. Now I can get the positive in easier. Or get the positive in too and get both of them in at the same time. There we go. They're both in. Yep, red one is the 1, 2, 3, 5th one from the front, or second from the back, depending on how you want to look at it. And then our final black from the heat bed is the final one, the 6th one from the front, first from the back. If you didn't realize that already. Just gonna make sure these are all nice and tightened down. Don't want any shorts on any of these terminals. All right. So that's what all step 25 was. So you can see here, I already went through all of these steps here. Yep, and then make sure that there's a bent part of the connector. Sorry, I didn't even point that out. There's a bent part of the connector. It should be facing up and away from the board, basically grabbing onto the metal plate that the screw is on. So I did make sure of all that. Please note that not all the following steps are. Please note that not following these steps correctly could possibly void the warranty on your printer if any damage occurs. Please take your time and double check the correct connections. So now we're going to connect all of our motors. So as you can see here, we already connected the X before we put on the case here. So now let's go ahead and connect in the Y. So the Y motor cable. So let's pull these LCD cables out of the way. Just lay them across. We'll put them underneath the Z-axis or Y-axis cable bundle here. So if you remember, there's these little zip ties on here. So that's our Z-axis, axis, and then there's our other Z-axis, and then that means that this is our, sure enough, Y-axis, and that's the second one from the top. Again, they're keyed, so you can only put it in one way. Pretty self-explanatory. I do like to place my hand on the other side just to make sure it's all in there nice and tight. And then we're going to put both of our Z-axis cables in to the one third from the top. There's two of them, stacked one on top of the other. They're both run by a single trimatic driver. Keep them in sync as best as possible. And then we're not going to connect anything to this bottom one right here yet. So anyway, so now that we've got that, power supply and panic heat bed thermistor. So we're going to find the twisted pair black and white cable from the power supply, connect it to the board. So basically there's this bank of, I believe these are the thermistors. This is the bank for the thermistors, and they're using one of them for the emergency panic for the power supply. So that's it coming out of, so if we follow the cable map from the heat bed, there's this one cable left with this green zip tie that's marked H. It goes into the far left one. It is keyed as well, so the little locking mechanism will be on the top. So as you can see, my H is facing down where there's is facing up in the picture, so it's not a big deal. And you can see here on that board, that is the correct one right there on this picture. So now we're going to find the slot for the nylon filament. You will need it in the next step. So there's our slot for the nylon filament. I need my nylon filament. Where is it? I don't remember where I put it now. You know what? It was probably in that box. Nope, not in that box. I think maybe I left it in this tube. Nope, not in that tube. I don't remember where I put that last piece of nylon filament. Let's see. If I were a piece of nylon filament, where would I be? Switch back to a better camera. Yeah, so I don't know where I put the nylon filament. So I might have to go without for right now. until I find it. Hold on a second. Let me see. The bad thing about these builds taking weeks on end. I end up moving things around and forgetting where I moved things to. Alright, so it's not there, not there, not there. I know I had it for the heat bed. Well, that's inconvenient. I wonder... I'm gonna check my parts from my Mk2S kit that I put away in here. Just see if I put it in here or if I can scrounge up one of them from this. Oh, there we go. I'm just going to use this one from the Mk2S kit. And its leftover pieces. Oh, wait. Oh, never mind. Ha! I'm dumb. I'm just an idiot. I forgot the nylon goes all the way through this cable housing here from the extruder. Duh. Yep, see? That's what I get for not thinking and not reading. It's already hidden. It's hidden inside of, let me go into the, there we go. So it is right there. That's what we need. So the nylon will be hidden inside the textile sleeve. Use the technique the next step to reach it. Before we proceed further, we need to twist the textile sleeve. This will prevent the cables inside slipping out. So let me pull this camera a little bit farther away so you guys can see. So what we're going to do now is we're going to grab all of our cables and we're going to twist this textile sleeve around. Around the trying to get it in frame here, around the cabling without twisting the cables. This pulls the textile sleeve a little further up, shortens its length, and next step you might need to twist the sleeve slightly back to prolong it. So we can make it a little shorter now and then twist it back later to get it to be longer, to make sure we've got it going inside of the INSI case. The INSI. There we go. Now we've got it there. Need this mouse. You can see my computer's still trying to upgrade over there. We're trying to update Windows 10. Connecting the extruder cable. So slide the nylon filament into the hole. Make sure the filament isn't pushing under the motor cables, which would indicate it's too long. You need to slightly unwrap the sleeve and push the filament back. So you can see there, that green hole, and that green hole goes all the way into the X-axis motor. And then once we get that in there, then we're going to slide the wiring and the sleeving in. We want to make sure we have the sleeving going all the way in, so we might need to untwist it. So let's go ahead and get that nylon filament into its home. And then, yep, I am going to need to untwist this some. pull it off and untwist it a little bit more now. There we go. That nylon cable back in there. Get all of our wires through. There we go. And get the cable wrap in there. All right. So now we should be able to put our, my hands are going to be in the main way no matter what I try to do here. There we go. And once we get that, come on, cable wrap nice and tight in there, should be able to get this clip over the cable wrap. There we go. And then where did that other Allen key driver go? There it is, way over there, way out of the way. All right, let's see if we can get this screw to start here. Wish I had my driver now. Let me switch back to my driver. It's just gonna make this so much easier. Sorry, my hands keep getting right in the way. Oh, I see what's happening. The cable wrapping is stopping the screw from going into the hole. Let me go back a picture. Okay, no. Doesn't want to go all the way into the housing, but it is in my way a little bit. Can't get the screw to go into its hole. Go into your home. Get into your home. There we go, now it's going. All right, since I got that one started, let me get the other side started now. And dropped it. That one started much easier. And then again, ensure the filament isn't pushing the motor cable, so we're going to make sure that nylon filament isn't coming out of that hole and pushing on the cable, which it is not. And then I can go ahead and get these tightened the rest of the way down now. You do want to make sure these are tight because the door won't shut all the way, and then it'll get in the way of the print bed or any prints and the extruder, and it just will not be a good time. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna use this to finish this off. There we go. That's nice. And tight. And so is that one almost. Well, I said that one was going in, and it wasn't. Sorry, I'm blocking the overhead camera now. That back one didn't make it in. So, there we go. Now it is. Again, you want to make sure you get this in tight because the door won't close all the way. So you can't leave those screws loose on this clip. There we go. Nice and tight on there. All right, so now it talks about connecting the extruder cable bundle. So I'm going to back the camera up just a little bit here so you can see more of the wiring. Starting to look like a big hot mess. So if your thing is doing cable routing and wire management, then sorry, forgive me. So now we want to connect the LCD. Connecting the filament sensor cable properly is crucial. If you don't follow the instructions properly, you will burn the sensor. Don't connect the cable now. Wait for the next step. So you'll see that the orange connector is already in there, just like they show in that picture there. I don't remember if it came like that or if I put that in there already. I might have put that in there already. I think I did. I just wanted to make sure it fit, and then once it fit, it didn't. I just didn't take it out. It's a tough part to print too because how small it is. But you see it's got that little tab that goes up, so you'll see that little tab right there. And there it is, and it is up towards the LCD connectors, just like that. The upper row is for the Mk2S, the lower row is for the Mk3S. Use these pins to connect the IR sensor. So yeah, we do have the Mk3S, so we're going to be using the lower row. STL Pro for plug-in diode liners available in the Mk3S package, so on and so forth. So we're not plugging in the LCD cables yet. So now what they want us to do is connect the remaining cables from the extruder. So the extruder heater is the red cables that come from that bundle. They go into the extruder heater port, which is hidden behind all of these cables that are loose right here still. And right next to where we put the emergency shutdown for the power supply unit. And the block side of this, the screw terminal side of this, goes towards the front of the printer. Again, put my hand on the back side, just give myself a little bit of extra push on the up for the push. And then we want the hot end fan cable, so that's the cable that comes from the hot end and is our fan cable. And it's going to be a 3, you can see I have it in my hand right here, it's going to be a 3 terminal cable, and it goes right next to the hot end, right underneath thermistor hookups. So you can see in the picture there, it's marked with the blue wire. And then the next one is the print fan red label. That is going to be this one right here, which is just a 2-wire. And it will have the yellow and green, it looks like in my case. And it will go into the very last, oh, that's not it. Is that it? Let me make sure that's it. So last time I did this, I think I hooked the cable up wrong. That's not it. That's not it. Yeah, that's it right there. The orange is the printed probe. This is the largest one. Let me zoom in on this picture real quick. Oh, wrong picture. This picture. There we go. So where is the print fan? That is not the print fan cable. This is not the print fan cable. Where is print fan cable? This is pen to probe. Yeah, that's the hot and there it is right there. I see it now. Okay, now I got it. Print fan cable. There it is. It is a 3 terminal cable, and it is keyed as well, so there's only one way it goes in, and that's with the key lock down. Okay, grabbing from the other side of the board, getting a little bit of extra pressure on there, make sure it's seated in all the way. So now let's go back to our instructions. IR sensor with the 2 wires facing to the right in R4. Use the bottom row, leave the upper row free. So let's go back to our zoomed in picture here. So on our, here it is. This is for our printers, our filament sensor. You'll see it's got the white cable at the top and then 2 blank rows and then a black and a red cable. The black and the red cable go towards the back of the printer. The white cable goes towards the front, and we're plugging it into the bottom row of this connector that we have the orange printed aligner in. There we go. Make sure that's seated all the way in there. Can't really see it now because this cable's in the way, but there you go. So you can see I've got it in the bottom row there. Can't see it very well, but you can see it. You can see it, but you can't see it. You can see it, but can't see it. And then next step is the extruder motor. So the extruder motor should be the only motor cable left loose. And that's going to go into our very bottom driver. It is a bit of a tight turn. So I'm gonna have to block the camera a little bit to get my fingers in there. Oh no, I'm not. There we go. I can't see. Does not want to go into your home. Go in your home. Use the light from the camera real quick. Sorry, gonna get really blurry. All right, it is buried down in there, but I can't see it. Whoa, what just happened there? One of the cables got caught on the camera. Come on. Doing it the right way, right? Yep. There we go. And there we go. A little tug there just to make sure it's on there. And then the extruder thermistor, it's going to be the green. So that's the one I was thinking was the that's what I was thinking was the fan. It's definitely not the fan. So I'm going to roll that around all this. It's a lot of extra. And then it goes into the far right thermistor connector port on the ENC board. And then last but not least, we have our Penda probe, which is this cable with the white, black, blue, and brown cable. White cable goes down, brown cable goes up, and it goes into the 4-port right above the LCD connectors. And then last but not least, we want to get our LCD plugged in. So here on the ENC board, you'll see the 2 LCD connectors right below where I plugged in the Penda at. So that's the Penda with the brown up and the white down, and then we have our 2 LCD connectors right behind that. You can just barely see in the darkness. If I move this cable out of the way, maybe it'll help out a little bit. There we go. So you can see one right there, and the next one right behind it there. There and there. And now our LCD cables go into there, and we want to make sure we're putting the right one in there. So the LCD cable with 1 black stripe, they call that the P1, and then the one with 2 black stripes, they call the P2. P1 goes into the one on the back side of the board, and the one with the P2 connector with 2 stripes goes on the front side of the board. And then the connectors have these keys on there. So you'll see right here that key, and then the housing has a key as well. So that key goes forward. So basically the black line goes forward. So I'm going to go ahead and start out with, I'm going to start with the P2. I think that one will be easier to get in first. Oh no, the black line does, oh yeah, the black line does go forward, does it? Yes, it does. So the black lines they drew on mine go forward, so, and it looks like it's that way in the picture as well here. So maybe that's something they consistently do. And now let's put the P1 in. I don't want to twist that way. There we go. And then the power, and then that is now that. And then the power panic, which I don't remember them talking about the power panic, but going in, but it's this one right here. LCD cable 1 stripe. Check your electronics. So I missed where they told us to put the power panic in, but I see where it goes, and I know where it goes here. So let me go ahead and connect the power panic from the goes right next to where the heat bed power connectors go in. Right where the cable cluster comes in from the heat bed too. And it is keyed as well. I just can't see which way it's keyed. There we go. It's keyed with the locking mechanism up. So we want to make sure, double check one last time that we have all of our cables done correctly. So X, Y, and Z and E axis, the heater extruder, yep, power supply, heat bed. Power panic just got plugged in. The left hot end fan is plugged into the left port there. And then the right one is our front print fan. Yep, that's correct. And then we've got our yellow and green tagged thermistor for the extruder. Yep. And then we've got the heat bed thermistor and the green tag on it there. Yep. LCD cables with the 2 and then the 1. Yep. And then the Penda probe is right up top right there. All right. So I believe we have that finally done. Let's make sure for this step, please prepare the M3 times 40 screw. So there's our M3 times 40 screw. And then close the ENC door so all this cabling kind of gets stuffed in. It's not a very good cable management system, but it does the job. If you wanted to get really fancy with this, I'm sure you could, but I don't. I don't go into this case very much. Door closes on there. Making sure none of the cables are getting kinked up or trapped in the door anywhere. And then this M3x40 screw goes from the outside here all the way through the body and then into that square nut we placed in the door on the very first step of this chapter. Tighten that down nice and tight. I'm going to grab this Allen wrench and do it again. All right, now that we got that nice and tight, I'm going to switch back to that camera there. Get this camera out of the way for now. And next step, if you've assembled the feet in the second chapter, you can skip this step. I did assemble the feet in the second chapter, so I'm going to skip that step. And then for the following steps, please prepare a center part small arm. See, I didn't get any of this double spool holder here. So I just have the big spool holder printed part here. There it is. Place all three main parts in front of you. So on and so forth. Mounting double spool holder mounts to the with the angle towards the back. It's Habro time, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this towards me. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and just place this right on there. And now it's Habro time. Phew, that was a lot of work. Eat 15% of the bears. So that's another 6. So I'm going to follow directions here. I'm running low. I probably only have like 6 left. I'm not getting 6. I'm getting like 3 or 4. All right. We're almost there. Because the assembly is done. Woohoo! Assembly is done. So there's the overhead view. Let me give you guys a better front view here. There we go. She is done. It's absolutely fantastic. So let's see if we can get some pre-flight stuff done. If I run into any errors, I'm going to have to call tonight. But let's at least see if we can get her powered on. So I need a power cable, which I do have one, I think, somewhere around here. Yep, there we go. So before I plug this in, let's look at the pre-check. Go ahead and mark this bad boy as complete. And let's go to the pre-flight check. So PINDA adjustment is first. So ensure that the printer is turned off and not plugged in. Then we want to take, while moving with the extruder to y-axis, works as a generator, create a smart electricity. LCD might flicker, move the extruder reasonably slow. In the future, it's always best to use the printer's controllers. Yeah, so don't move the motors around or the pieces around that are connected to the motors too much. They do generate some electricity. So you want to make sure that you're moving them slow. When you do have to move by hand, and using the printer to move them is going to be the best. Let's move the extruder manually all the way to the left side. So my right at this time, your left. Being very careful to move it slowly. And let's take that all the way to the left side. Left side, done. Checking gear from doing out of the nozzle slightly touching. So by rotating both thread rods at the same time on the Z-axis, move the nozzle until you reach the heat bed. So let's go ahead and take this by hand and move it back. Move it all the way down. I wonder if this camera will be any better. I'm going to check to see if I can get this camera to work. Alright, so Can't get all of the printer in there, but I can get most of it in there. There we go. So what we're doing now is getting the Z-axis and the nozzle moved all the way till it reaches the heat bed. I'm probably gonna have to move the pin to probe up. I don't think that's anywhere close to where it needs to be. Yeah, pin to probe's already on the heat bed there. So let me loosen up the pin to probe bolt just a little bit here. Then a little bit more maybe. Don't want to do that. Turned it too much. There we go. And of course, you don't want to put the steel sheet on here yet. It's one of the caution directions here, so I'm going to make sure that the nozzle is touching the heat bed. So it says check the different angles to make sure the nozzle is touching the heat bed. Move the extruder carefully all the way to the right, which is going to be my left in this case. Make sure the nozzle is not scratching the surface during the movement. If it does, rise the right side of the x-axis by rotating the Z motor slowly counterclockwise. So going to that is a little too tight there. It's so hard to see. Go. Now it's touching all the way on the left side. And now we want to adjust the pin to probe height. So I'm going to keep an eye on the extruder. Move it across. Make sure it's not scratching the plate. Build plate. Lift it up just a little bit here. Pull it to about the center. And then I'm going to use the zip tied method to get the pin to probe height correct. So what they have us doing here is you lift up the Z-axis, you put a zip tie right underneath where the printer probe is going to come down to the bed. You put the hot end down till it touches the bed, then you push the pin to probe down till it hits the zip tie. Take the zip tie from the package, place it under the pindo sensor. Use the middle part of the zip tie, not the tip. Release the screw hole in the pindo sensor and gently press it against the zip tie. Tighten the screw in the pindo probe holder. Again, do not use glue to fix the pindo probe. In the new type of holder, the Mk3. The M3 screw, you won't be able to release it again. At correct height of the pindo sensor compared to the nozzle should be similar to the last picture. So it's about 2 millimeters, I think is what it is. So let's go ahead and lower this back down manually till the hot end is touching the bed. is. Now we want the pin to probe. We're pressing down on the zip tie, which there it is. And then now we can tighten down the Mk3 screw that's going to hold the pin to probe into place. Come on. There we go. And now I'm going to raise it back up. Pull the zip tie out. And there we go. Now it says to please watch our user's video. Not going to do that. Common mistakes for assembly. Not going to watch that. Quick guide for prints. Let me go ahead and move to the front camera and overhead. There we go. Printable 3D models, Prusa knowledge base, Prusa 3D forums. That's it. Assembly is over. Calibrate the printer according to the handbook. You are ready to go. Eat the remaining bunch of Habros. So I'm going to go ahead and power her on and eat the rest of my Habros, my gummy bears. So all right, let's go ahead and power this bad boy on. I am going to update the firmware while I'm at it too. So we've got our power applied. I'm going to move this camera so you guys can see everything. There we go. Let's power on. Cross fingers, cross fingers. Power supply's on. LCD's on. Still can't find my LCD screen here. So, I'm going to take English. Or my LCD. I can't find my knob. I don't know where it went. Right there. It says, hi, I'm your blah, 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 blah. I have to do this here. Stitch 2 setup. Hi, I'm your blah, 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 original printer. I'd like to guide you. Let me guide through your setup. Yes, why don't you let me? First, I'll run the self-test. Check most common assembly errors. Self-test start. Fan test. Extruder fan, okay. Print fan, okay. That's a valve print fan. Checking the hot end. Self-test error. Please check heater, thermistor, not connected. So this is the same error that I had last time. And I can't remember what I did last time. Wrong. So let me just figure this out for a second. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to pull the x-axis up. Oh. Self-test failed. Please check our handbook. Fix the problem. So let me go to settings, move axis, x-axis, nope, not x-axis, x-axis, z-axis. So obviously it works. So thermistor for the extruder is what's not working. So let's see. Gonna open up the EC case real quick, just make sure that I've got it done. I think I maybe forgot last time to completely plug in this thermistor, so let me go back to electronics assembly and scroll down until I hit the wiring. Where's the board map? There it is. That's not it. Where's the entire board map? Did I leave it open? No, that's not the right one. Let me see. No, it's the last picture. That's right. There it is. Extruder thermistor. Yeah, that's it. I've got that one plugged in. Let me make sure I've got it plugged into the right thing. Gonna power it off and plug before I finish that. All right. So that thermistor is a black and red cable. Yep. And it comes into a black and red cable right here. And it is plugged into the correct port. Yep. Just making sure. Yep, it's the last one. Yeah, that's correct. So I have it connected in there correctly. Let me put that board back in together. All right, I am going to turn this around so that I can see everything better. You're just gonna have to look at it over top, sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Power cable goes in right there. Go ahead and switch her on. I am your original Prusa i3 printer. Would you like me to guide you through the setup process? Yes. First, I'll run self-test to check the common assembly problems. Self-test start. Let's go start with the extruder fan, and that is going. And then the print fan is going. And checking the hot end. Oh, it says it could be the heater too. I didn't check that while I had it open. It definitely wasn't heating up. So let me check the heater. Let me turn it off. Make sure that heater cable's plugged all the way in. go. There's only one place where the heater cable gets plugged in anyway, so. Yep, it's plugged all the way in. There we go. Almost pinched one of the LCD ribbon cables in the door as I was tightening it. All right, let's try that again. If I remember correctly, I just actually didn't do that whole self-test, and it ended up working anyway on my last build. So I'm gonna try this one more time, and then if it gives me the same error, then I'm just gonna try to not do the self-test, just do the calibration. So yes. Extruder fan is on. Print fan is on. Both tested okay. Oh, yeah, the hot end. I just unplugged it and plugged it back in. I guess that always works, right? Hot end's okay. It's checking the x-axis now. The x-axis is working good. Y-axis. Looks good. Z-axis. Calibrating home. And I see the red light for the bed. Let's make sure it reads it with the thermistor. Bed's definitely getting hot. So it's still checking the bed. I wonder what temperature it tries to take it to. Bed light just went out, so I wonder. Please check filament sensor wiring error. So you know what I'm actually going to do? I'm going to update the firmware. So I'm going to hit cancel on that. I've already got everything set up, I think. So let me just plug in this USB cable. USB cable, stop fighting me. There we go. All right, so now I can do that. So you'll see Slick 3R or whatever you want to call it. Make it a normal size here for you. There we go. And this is, of course, where we go through the. Since I restarted it, I'm going to say no. Can always resume the wizard. Printer's not been calibrated. Blah 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 blah. So now let's go to. In Slick 3R, you download the newest version of everything, of course. Run Slick 3R. Here you can flash printer firmware. Browse to your firmware image, which is going to be, for me, in my Prusa Mk3S, and then firmware, open. And then it says ready, so we're going to go ahead and flash. It says flashing in progress. Please do not disconnect the printer. And then on an LCD screen here, it says upgrading firmware. Do not disconnect. Right. And it goes through the percentages. So into 20% already up into 30% now. Now it's verifying. Already done with the upgrade, now it's going to verify. Oh, and I already finished my half rows. I didn't even realize I finished them. Ooh. That's alright. I think that it failed the filament sensor because the firmware that's currently on there is looking for a different sensor. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but we're going to find out. That's why we're upgrading to the new firmware, which it is now done. It says flashing in progress. Do not disconnect from the printer. LCD shows that it just rebooted the printer. Flashing successful. Close. There we go. Warning, printer type changed. Okay. So check. Old settings found, default PID, E-steps, etc. will be set. Printer has not been calibrated yet. Please follow the manual chapter. First step section, calibration flow. So now it says Prusa i3 Mk3S. Okay, so let's go into calibration. Do the wizard. Hi, I'm your original Prusa i3 printer. Would you like me to guide you through the setup process? Yes. I will run the test. Okay. Self-test start. Extruder fan. Yes. Print fan. Yes. Is the left hot end fan spinning? Not spinning. The hot end fan is not spinning. Is the front fan, print fan, spinning? Not spinning. Is The front fan is spinning. Checking the x-axis. Checking the y-axis. Checking the z-axis. Calibrating home. So I can take that off of there for right now. Don't really need that on there yet. Checking the bed. But the heat bed checked okay. Now it's checking the hot end. I'm just getting some filament ready just in case we get that far. All correct. I'll run the XYZ calibration now. Take approximately 12 minutes. Excellent printer. Go right ahead. Auto home. Calibrating Z. And I'm going to go ahead and get the spring steel sheet ready down here. Takes the Z all the way to the top till it hits. There we go. Please clean the nozzle for calibration. Click when done. Click. Is the steel sheet on the bed? No. Place a sheet of paper under. So let's grab our fun cheat sheet here. First 4 points of the nozzle catch the paper, power off the printer. So basically it's going to go down and it's going to start probing around, and if it grabs that paper, we're going to power it off. So I'm going to keep my finger over here on the power switch just to make sure. I'm going to have to follow it around. Almost. Check the front right corner now. Now it's going to do the back right. And on to the fourth point, back left. I have to say that the this is a little louder than the Mk3 that I built last month. I mean, it's still way quieter than the Mk2S ever was, but it's a little louder than the Mk3 is. I don't know if it's the reused parts, reused motors. It's the same drivers and everything as the Mk3. It may just be the calibration. I don't know. I'll find out when I start doing prints. But for right now, everything seems to be going pretty fantastically. Okay, so looks like it found all 4 points. Let's make sure We get confirmation of that. Please place steel sheet on heat bed. Got our steel sheet here. A little bit different design from my old Mk3 kit. Nice. Steel sheet is on. Measuring reference height. Calibration point 1 of 9. I'm going to go ahead and put the paper back on here. No, right. Scared me there for a second. Doing our mesh bed leveling. Static electricity of the PI sheet held the paper. XYZ calibration okay. XY axis are perpendicular. Congratulations. Is filament loaded? No. I will now preheat the nozzle for PLA. So I'm going to go ahead and put my filament holder back on. Got it. And I've got a nice little partial roll of PLA here. So just some experimental PLA. It's good stuff. I've never had a problem with it. It's not wrapped very nicely on the filament roll, if you can see there in the front picture. But it's good filament. Just wait for it to get to temp. Insert PLA. Loading filament. You know what? I don't remember where I put the SD card. Filament extruding with the correct color. Let's see. Yes, it is. Yes. Calibrate the difference. Now we're gonna set live Z. Pretty sure that's the SD card. I tell you, the live's just gonna have to go way down. We're close to squished in the bed. There we go, a little too squished. asking if I want to readjust. So I'm going to set no for right now. All done. Happy printing. So let's go ahead and remove this test print from the heat bed. I think I found the SD card. So let's see if this is it. Yes, that is it. Yay. So let's do hold SD card. Let's do the Prusa logo. Where is it? There it is. Right. Already going. Much better. Purge line on the front. Skirt looks pretty good. See how that first perimeter looks. I think that first layer is looking really good. Might be a little low. So I'm up in the negative 0.85. I had it at negative 0.87 something, and it was looking a little low. So just pull it up to negative so negative 0.855 is what I'm at right now. PLA is definitely sticking to the bed, no problem. That might be a little too high. Take it up to 0.865. Now I'm saying those numbers out loud. That doesn't mean those are going to be your results. Every printer is a little different. I don't remember what the other printer's at, but I want to say it's around about the same thing. first layer looks pretty good. I'm actually going to go ahead and cancel this print. Don't need another Prusa logo. Let's take a look at that first layer. I got a little bit of string in, but it is cold in my basement. Notice that I get a lot of string in on my prints when it's cold down here. Let's see how that looks. I like to stop this print on the first layer because it allows you to see really good if your first layer is welding together with the with each of the lines. See how smooth that first layer is. There's no space between any of the extrusion lines. Yeah, that looks good. So let's do the vase. So preheat, PLA, and then print from SD. PLA vase. I think that's what I do. Let's see. Anything else I haven't done? Never done one of the castles, but that's a 17-hour print. I don't think I have enough filament on there to do that. So let's just do the 5-hour vase print. Base vase. I like to be fancy. Call it a vase. Let's get this started, and then I'm gonna sign off for the evening. It's already 2:30 in the morning, so it'll get started here in a sec. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I'm not completely blocked by the filament roll. Every once in a while I've had this happen where it has to re-level the Z. It just means it just takes everything all the way up to the top. Usually happens when you get a little booger of stuff. See? No problem now. And I'm doing the print that's on the SD card. It's basically just it's base mode, just single perimeter, real quick. Oh, it's real quick. It's a 5-hour print, but it's tall, so it gives you an idea if you've got anything wrong with any of your Z or X axis, or even Y axis. It's going to cause any, or it causes any layer shifting. Definitely not a quick print, but it's a good test print. To make sure all your axes are, all your belts are nice and tight. Just want to see this first layer get done. looks good. All right, I think that's it. So I'm gonna sign off for the night. I moved that camera around and got stuff in my way now, so I'm gonna have to like make sure I'm in frame here. So that's it. It took me 5 nights, 3 hours each night, so 15 hours to upgrade my Mk2S to the Mk3S. Had little hiccups here and there, but not as bad as the Mk3 build. Don't know if I'm going to upgrade the Mk3 to the new filament sensor. I don't really see big benefit to it as of right now. We will see. I'll use both printers in parallel, kind of alternate back and forth between the two. But for now, this project is done. I do have some plans for this printer to do some modifications. This is going to kind of be my play printer. The other one I'm going to leave pretty much stock as possible. But I've got some fun little modifications. I think I'm going to try to do this printer with, like, you know, y-axis belt tensioning that you can find pieces from on Thingiverse. I've already printed out a couple pieces. Same thing with the x-axis. Maybe some other little things here and there, but nothing huge, bigger than that anyway. I'm not going to do any extruder upgrades or anything. So of course I'll be you know, live streaming those, getting those builds done if I can. So I do plan on doing a live stream next Thursday. What I'm going to be doing yet, I have no idea. Next Tuesday. Try to do Monday and Tuesday, but at least next Tuesday, give you guys an update for anybody who does watch these videos. Show you any prints I've been doing on this printer. Maybe do a comparison with the other printer. It shouldn't be any different, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something, learned from my mistakes. You know, saw how something was done. Maybe I helped you make a decision if you want to go with this printer or not. Whatever the case may be, I just hope I helped at least a little bit. If I even helped just one person, all of this is worth it. So thank you so very much for joining me tonight. You know, as always, be kind to each other, love each other more, hug each other, use return signals, things like that, or don't. You know, don't have to listen to me. I'm nobody important. Anyway, again, thanks for joining me so much, and have a wonderful rest of your night, and I'll see you guys next week.